Hello, everyone. It's great to see so many people here again, and I always love seeing where everyone's from as well. The sort of exotic locations that the coastal towns and stuff. And then here I am in Solihull, which is literally the furthest place away from the coast that you could get in England, or pretty much anyway. I'm about 15 minutes from Meriden, which is the middle of England, but never mind. I can't say it's sunny here. It's pretty cloudy, actually, so I might be particularly grumpy today. We'll have to see. But really pleased to be joined by three panelists here on Room 101. I'm sure most of you by now know what Room 101 is all about, to be honest. Obviously, most people have seen the TV programme, whether it was back in the days where Paul Merton did it or more recently where Frank Skinner's done it. But clearly the object of Room 101 really is to banish something that particularly irritates you and that you would rather live your life without. And we've had some brilliant, we've done this, I think this is the fourth time now, we've had some brilliant suggestions. And I remember thinking, well, we might run out of ideas, but actually what you realise is there's so much irritating, annoying things that we would like to banish out there that I think this could go on forever, really. So what we normally do is obviously we'll talk to the panellists, and we'll keep the same formula as what we had last time, which is that there'll only be one winner this time. There'll only be one thing that goes into Room 101. So you've got to really make sure your argument we had some brilliant stories and kind of amazing arguments last time. So no pressure, but that's what you've got to live up to. And it always works best as well when we get loads of stuff through the chat. The chat is often hilarious during this session. But that's enough, I think, from me for now. I'm going to introduce our first panelist to share their gripe. And who am I going to pick on first? I think I'm going to go for Louise Robson. Louise is from St. Leger Homes, which is up in Doncaster, I believe, Louise. So good afternoon to you, and let's hear what your Room 101 gripe is then.
Hi, Steve. Hi, everybody. Lovely to see you all. This is actually, I'm a comms Room 101 virgin, so I haven't been to one before. I've got a very varied role. So not only do I look after comms, I'm also a data protection officer. So I have a really exciting life in comms, and then I have a really, really dull life in data protection. So as well as a number of other things. But the one thing I suppose that really grates on me is, again, and I apologise if this has been discussed already in Room 101, but that magic wand. So that magic wand moment where somebody comes to you and says, can you just wave your magic wand and can you come up with something that'll do X, Y, or Z, or really get people involved? Or can you do something that means something different, but we really want to go out and say it like this? You do tons of work. You wave your magic wand and then you bring it back to the person that's asked you to wave your magic wand, and then they say, actually, let's just do it in an email. And it's like crazy time. So you go round in circles, you come up with something new, something inventive, something whizzy that you'll try and capture people's imagination. But let's always divert back to an email, because emails work great. So that's my Room 101. Seeing lots of love for Donny in the messages. I'm one of those people that works in Donny as well, lives in Sheffield or Rotherham, depending on where the postcodes are and which council that you're under. So that's all really confusing. But yeah, Northern girl through and through. But that's my Room 101 for today.
Thanks, Louise. I mean, the first thing I was going to say actually is there's a lot of love for Donny here, which is lovely to see.
I don't know whether I'm still frozen or everybody's frozen.
Oh no, we can hear you, Louise, or I certainly can anyway. So, but yeah, lots of love for Donny. It's a lovely accent as well, I have to say. I think we've sort of got Louise, but she's given us what we need for now for now to work without her until we can get her back. We haven't quite. I think we have had this in a sense before, possibly around could you comms this. I think we've had that in Room 101 before. We've never had it in quite this form, and I think that we've never had the magic wand, the comms magic wand, put into Room 101 before, or suggested for it anyway. And I think we can all feel this pain. Lots of emojis coming through. In fact, Claire Parker from Forest Research. I have a magic wand. I'm a white witch. It causes so much fun when I tell people. I also have a crystal ball. That's an interesting one. So you can probably foresee some of these awful requests coming coming through then, actually, Claire. Yeah, I think this is a very good one, actually. We all had that request, haven't we? Could you just sort this out for me? With no sort of explainer either about what they mean by sort it out or comms it or wave the magic wand, and then it turns out that the magic isn't enough, really. Joel's saying the magic wand is a northern comms saying, so that's a funny one. But I tell you what, you had me, to be honest, when you said you were a comms person and a data protection person, I was immediately jealous, given some of the wrangles I have to have with very, very professional, very good people in our data team, because I'm the one who's saying, oh, I'm sure we can do this and it'll be fine from a data point of view, and they're kind of saying, no, actually that would be in breach of, quite rightly telling me it would be in breach of GDPR. So I guess in your position, Louise, you could kind of just wave everything through, really, because you're the one in charge of that as well. So quite jealous of that, really.
I'm a very pragmatic data protection officer, and I'll always push back and say, if you were that data subject, would you want that happening with your information? If yes, all right, then let's crack on, as long as we're not breaking the law. But if not, really just put yourself in the position of, actually, if this was your data, would you want that to happen? Or even your grandma's or something like that, because that always works better as well. So I'm quite pragmatic in that matter.
No, that sounds good. So before we move on, give us an example then. Is there a particular example you can think of where someone asked you to wave the magic wand? You don't have to be specific. You don't have to name anyone, because, this does end up on YouTube. But you could, if you just, I've had to adjust to that, Louise, over the weeks, because to begin with, there are things that I would not have wanted colleagues to hear. But give us an example of the sort of thing you mean.
Well, it's hard, and I've seen some housing colleagues on here as well, but housing, again, alongside data protection, we're not sexy. We can't do a lot of marketing or branding or things like that. So it's perhaps putting a new spin or a new twist on something that we're trying to do with our services. And I think that happened a lot during the pandemic. So we need to get a message out there about what's going to happen when we visit you. Oh, what we're going to do, how are we going to do that? So again, we created a visiting guide, a visiting video, and things like that, which actually worked really, really well. But it was one of those, oh gosh, what we're going to do, how are we going to do it? Let's have a think. Wave that magic wand and come up with something really quick, because obviously it was time pressured as well. So it worked in that aspect, but at the time it was like, oh gosh, what do we do? Well, we've done something, I suppose, not the same way for so long, but how do we hit more people that are having to turn to digital means rather than just a letter that hits the doormat that says, this is what we expect you to do now when we're visiting your home?
I think it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because it's often the difference between it's sometimes I think people feel pressure to innovate every time they do something, and you don't need to, actually. Sometimes like the best way is the way you know best, which is why it's done that way. Like, there are other times where you're right, you need to challenge your thinking, and you need to kind of think, well, we need something quite different here because of X, Y, Z. But ultimately, it comes back to your objective, doesn't it? If your objective, for example, is to reach X amount of people with a message, you don't necessarily need to do something that's kind of whizzy to do that sometimes. In fact, the pandemic's a good example, I think, of where we did as Citizen, we're a housing organisation as well, so we did an animation around how we keep people safe in their homes. But in terms of how we got that message out there, it was kind of email, text message, So it's about picking your moments, I think, when you use that magic wand, isn't it? There are moments where it can add real value, and there are times where actually the tried and tested methods are the best, I think.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Okay, thanks for that, Louise. It's a really good start, a really good way to kick off Comms Room 101. So now Jahanara and Son are both thinking, who's next? And I'm going to go for Son, actually. Good afternoon, Son. Tell us where Son is from. Tell us where you're from. It's in Tent Health, is it? So you're up in Leeds as well, aren't you, I think?
Yeah, hello everyone. I am Son and I am from Vietnam, but I've been living in Leeds for like nearly 2 years now, and I'm working as an account executive in Tent Health, like a healthcare communication agency. And thanks to Tila, I'm here today, joining my first Com Zero 101 first Com Hero catch up. So yeah, I'm really a bit nervous, but excited to be here. So yeah.
Oh, don't be nervous. Yeah, you're among friends here, Son. So don't worry at all. But tell us what you'd like to put into room 101 then.
I think I actually like prepared two things. The first one is I think it's not only for the PR industry, but like more maybe for designers. So that's like whenever we finish like writing something, it's always like final. It's not always like final like version. I'm just wondering like where is our final versions? Like there are a lot of like Final Destination like movies and all that. I just would like okay, I need a Final Destination for that. But whenever we finish writing some things, there's always something else like coming up, and the client asks it like, "Can you add this in? Can you add the quote in? Can you add some kind of information in?" So I was like, okay, then just don't like approve it or like make it the final version. So yeah, that's the first one, and the second one. Did I get cut out?
You're back on now, Son. I'm trying to tell whether it's difficult for me to tell whether it's my internet, because my internet is terrible, or yours. But it seemed like that one was you. But you only went out for a moment. So we heard about Final, which I'm really looking forward to talking about. But let's hear your other one as well.
The other one is actually like from my reflection of our work with the client. Like I just don't understand why they always want to have like a meeting on Monday, especially like to update the work. I was just like, do you want me to update my weekend activity or like how drunk I am or whatever? So yeah, I just like just don't make it on Monday. Like please, at least like make it on Wednesday or like Tuesday, so we have time to prepare like thoroughly and all that stuff. So yeah, I think that's my comp 0121 really.
I think they're both great. I think there's a lot to go at here. We haven't had these before either. So the first one that you can see people straight away in the chat going, I think who was it? Tila said, final version 15, actually the final. If I had £1 for every time I name a file final, and then it never ends up being the final one. So you've got like the actual file name itself ends up being Final 2 or Final 3, or actually I might start calling it Final Destination if that's a very good idea actually for the very last one. But I think you were also getting at the point that, you know, it's people chucking last minute amends in, isn't it? And that is a real bugbear, and it's a really big challenge in organizations for comms teams, where getting people into the right practice for how they give you amends on a report or a similar document. And you can save yourself an enormous amount of time if you just take a bit of time to it. Often it's because people don't understand how time consuming it is, because they think, it's just one text change. But it's like, yeah, it's a text change that you're making, and then 5 minutes later, your colleague is sending me a different one. And then there's the issue of version control, where you can get two people in one team that are dealing with two different copies of the same document. So I think it's a good one for all kinds of reasons. We've all felt that pain, haven't we? Where, could you just make one last amend? You know, and it's like, not really, because you kind of said it was the final one. So sorry, Son, what were you going to say?
No, it's saying like, yes, like if we have the control of the version, we like are gonna go for is make our life so much easier, I think. So yeah, just comment about that really.
Yeah, I think there is a very good message here. I think it was from Joel. Joel wants to know, is that your final version of your Room 101 submission? Which is it's quite a good question, really, isn't it? I just wonder if you're going to chuck an amend in. But no, the other one you mentioned as well, I think Monday meetings. I think it's Monday meetings, particularly morning ones, but also Friday deadlines. That's the one that really gets me, is as if you're going to do anything with it, like the illusion that anything's going to be done with it over Saturday and Sunday. Could you get that to me by close of business on Friday? Why? What are you going to do with it after 5 o'clock on a Friday? Like, you know, it's sort of arbitrary, isn't it? But yeah, I get that. None of us want a Monday morning meeting, particularly if we've had a good time at the weekend. any other day. I think it should be law really that Mondays are kind of meeting clear for the first half of the day really. So thanks for those, Son. I'm gonna bring in Jahanara now because she's waited very, very patiently. So good afternoon to you. How are you?
Hiya. Oh my God, it's the afternoon now, isn't it? God. I'm very well. I'm a bit bunged up. Hay fever has, I was saying to the others, has taken over my body. So I'm now 80% pollen. So if you hear anything, please, I apologize already.
That's okay. You sound fine. You could just pretend it's your microphone.
Yeah, that's exactly what I said. It's the microphone. Yeah, totally.
So you're based at you're from, is it Golin or Golin?
London. So I'm going in London. In London, I'm an associate working on the consumer tech team. So so I work on like Garmin, Lego, all that fun jazz.
Oh, cool. That sounds good.
Yeah, it's really cool. I'm enjoying it.
You look like you're in the office unless you've got an amazing background.
I'm just really that committed to the brand. No, I am in the office today. So I need to get out of my house, to be honest. I can't do it anymore. So yeah, no, I came into the office. It's first time being here, which in itself is a bit of a trip when there's like clearly a floor for 500 people and there's about 6 people here. So it's a bit trippy, but it's good to be out of my bedroom for once.
Yeah, I think we can all feel that. I had a rare day out of the office yesterday, but it was like the first time in months, and it was really good actually. It really energizes you, doesn't it? I think just a change of scenery and not have these not to see these jackets all day that never get worn anymore. So what would you like to put in room 101?
So I'm maybe exposing the junior PR sort of realm, but mine is follow-ups with the media or influencers, and it will be the death of me because I understand, like, don't give up, 100% understand the importance of follow-ups, completely get it. When I'm on my 3rd email and I'm being ignored, I'm taking it personally. Like, I'm definitely taking it personally at that stage. And the thing that I really detest about what Google Gmail has done is that it will tell you when you're blocked. And my self-esteem does not need that in a working environment. It does not. I don't need to know when I've been blocked by a journalist. And a colleague in America taught me how to set. It's a little bit of a tidbit. There's a Chrome extension that lets you see when your email's been opened, how many times, how far they got into your email, what they clicked on, how long they spent on the hyperlink. That also isn't very good for your mental health during launches, but I do highly recommend it because it will limit your follow-ups, but it will also expose the quality of your follow-up. So I think for me, that's definitely one of them, because then you end up having to go onto their Twitter or like on their Instagram if they're influencers, and then you're calling them. Oh my God, it was even worse in the office because you're calling the desk and you know that they're there and you know they're ignoring you, but you can't say anything because you can hear them in the background. But now they're at home, I can't call you and be like, hey, I know you're at like literally in your bed. Because I did that a few times at the start of lockdown last year, like calling people on their phone. And I couldn't hack it. Like, it was so embarrassing to be like, I know you're in your bedroom. Like, I know you're there. Can you just write the story, please? So that's my addition to Room 101. And be done with head-ups, please.
I think it's a great one. I just, as you were talking, it reminded me of, I remember thinking when I was sort of an officer level, I remember thinking, I can't wait until I don't have to do this anymore. I think, does anyone really enjoy it? I think everybody loves I think it's a challenge, isn't it, to like pitch stuff into media, for example. And when you get the coverage, it's like brilliant. But if anybody loves the process of actually kind of following up to ask someone whether they've seen it and whether they're going to do anything on it, then I'd love to like learn something from them, because it isn't a nice process, particularly if, I mean, I don't know, I used to be a journalist for like a few years as well. So I know I received lots of calls like that, and I know what my reaction was. And it was often quite flippant and, not sort of very friendly, probably, to be honest, because you're just in that mode where you get so much stuff sent to you. And I think this is a really good one, because I think there'll be lots of people who feel your pain, lots of people who feel your pain. And if it feels like, am I the only person who hates doing this? No, you're very much not. But I suppose, like, if we think about how to make this a bit easier, and just from a bit of experience, there's a few things to think about here. And it's hard. It is harder when you work for an agency, because there's an expectation of, like, you are going to follow that up because you're doing it on behalf of a client. It becomes a little bit easier when you're internal, because you tend to have a bit more clout in your own organization, and people listen to you a bit more about what is and isn't newsworthy and what's likely to make it in and stuff. So I get the position you're in is harder. And again, I've worked at agencies and had that experience, so I know it's difficult. But there's not that. I think the worst ones are where you have a sense of whether it's likely to go, like the journalist's interested or not. Yeah. And you've kind of probably come to the mental conclusion that they haven't, but you've still got to make the call. And that's always the most soul destroying one. So I thought that was hilarious. Your bit about being able to see when you've been blocked. I mean, that is a bit brutal, isn't it? They could just delete your email. You know, I think that was interesting. But yeah, I think it comes down to, you've got to have something good, and to begin with, you're never going to be able to follow yourself up into taking a bad piece of whatever it is, a bad story. You're never going to be able to follow that up into a story. But where follow-ups do definitely work, and they are really important, is that journalists are so busy and they miss stuff. And so it's that, sometimes it is that call. I find it a lot particularly with our local media. So like BBC Coventry and Warwickshire, for example, if I just send them an email, or one of my team sends them an email, and they'll go, we haven't heard anything back. And I was like, just give them a call, just give them a bell. Yeah. And then they'll go, oh yeah, actually that sounds quite good, we'll do something on it. So that is the difference then between getting that coverage or not getting it. So that is there is real value in follow-up, but I think it is a difficult one. It's a difficult one, particularly when you know that, you know, there's probably a decent chance that it's not going to get used. So that's a very, very good one. And we've never had that before. Let's hear what people have been saying about this. Charlotte, who's the director of Sidekick now, I presume that's an agency. Years ago, when I was very young and an agency boss used to make us ring and ring, we used to keep our finger on the phone and pretend to have conversations. Oh, I love it.
I love that. I think it's, you have to be tactical. I think, like, even if, like, you know, it like you said, it very well might land in coverage, and totally, when that happens, it's even more satisfying than them saying yes the first time round when you follow up and they cover it. I think it's the process of having to, maybe it's a somewhat like half introvert type thing of like having to constantly be like, pay attention, please give me attention, I just need you to respond. And then when you go on like the Facebook groups of like the journalists, or like even on Twitter, and you see them complaining about PRs, and you're like, babe, first of all, it wasn't my choice. Secondly, I'm trying.
Yeah. I know there is a lot of that, and it really angers me now, particularly having been on the other side of it. Because there are, and I've said this to people when I see journalists complaining, and they must get a lot of crap. But what they forget is there is a little bit of a God complex about journalism. Like, it's just a fact. There are people that are quite, not all, I don't want to say self-important, but because it's quite a noble profession and it's a kind of information sharing, I'm sharing the truth. Like, it does, when I did it, it was the same, even though I was only on a weekly paper. You do kind of feel like you're in this sort of slightly lofty position of being able to just bat stuff away, and you forget that actually on the end of it's just another normal person trying to do their job, really. So that anti-PR stuff does absolutely no good whatsoever. The best thing we can do is try and understand each other's agendas and just be good people about it, you know. So obviously, if you're pestering a journalist 8 times in a day, then they've got every right to tell you that you should go away. If actually you're just following up for the first time, then actually there's nothing wrong with that. But I think there would be some real value in having a session where you brought journalists and PRs together and tried to just kind of hammer through some of this. because I do think there'd be things that both could learn. I think the problem is a lot of journalists. I had a Twitter exchange with someone recently about this, and she clearly felt she had nothing to learn and that it was for PRs to learn everything about how to approach the media, and that's just not a helpful mentality to have. So let's see what we've got. We've got a couple more minutes before I'm going to have to make a decision here, which is, so thanks for that, Jahanara. That was a really, really good one. And as I say, they've all been original today, really, in the way that they've been presented. So that's great. Journalists be like, you have no authority here. That's Son. Yeah. You have no authority here. No authority at all. Thoughts on connecting people on LinkedIn and then not willing to respond? Where's the value in this connection? Yeah, I mean, I don't know about you, but I get lots of those that where I'm kind of thinking, well, if we're meant to have some initial connection, or sort of loosely anyway. Jonathan Flay-Petty, if only there was a network where we could get a journo as a guest. Yeah, they often ask to be paid, which is another irritating thing. It's all right, I can say this because I used to be one, so it's fine. But no, I mean, and maybe that's a plea for a session. If there's still some gaps in Comms Hero Week, could we grab a journalist, a friendly journalist or two, and a couple of PR people, and let's hammer this through, because I think it would be a good thing to see that. I'm going to make a decision. So let's recap. We had Louise's magic wand. We had Son's final destination and Monday meetings, and we had Jahanara's follow-ups. And I think they're all really good, to be honest. They're all really good. So I feel mean now, but I'm going to have to go with the follow-ups. And I think it's a subjective one for me. That is just because I know the pain. So I think they're all great. They're all really, really good. And thank you so much for the thought you put into them. But I'm going to go with Jahanara. So what do you think, Jahanara?
I believe that you made the right decision. I you know what, love PR, love interacting with media, love doing all of that jazz. But I would love just to hear something back before I send like my 12th email. Just please. I'm begging at this point, but no, that's great. Thank you.
No, congratulations, and Son. Just to say, as we finish, I'm afraid that is my final decision. So there is no final version 2 or 3 there. So I think I'll hand back to Asif now. Thank you all of our panelists and to everybody who took part in the chat. I always think this session's going to kind of lose a bit of steam, and it never ever does. It seems to gather pace, if anything. So thank you all, and enjoy the rest of the event.
Excellent. Another fantastic Comms Room 101. So brilliant work, Steve. And so I think this is the 5th one we've done now? Or the 4th one? It still gathers pace, still keeps going. So if you're up for it, last Wednesday of every month, we'll keep going. I think it's getting interest, and the different panelists seem to give us a different point of view as well. So no, that's fantastic to see. And thank you once again, Steve, for hosting for us as well. Great job, and I like it, the fact that you're the bad cop, so I'm cool with that. So thank you once again.